The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hoop Ballers! Welcome back to another episode of Today in Sports Betting. Another episode, another edition of this hoop-ball.com presentation at Hoopball Gaming on Twitter. And I am your host, Devin Ellington, at DALE007. Going to be joined by one of my main men. You know, I got a couple. Got Ira and got John. John's going to be with us today. We are going to knock this Return of the Mac podcast out. We're going to talk all 6 games. We're going to also get into some college lines that we're really liking, and then some NFL stuff. So football heavy. Don't forget, though, that we are presented by manscaped.com. They have a promo code for us that you can use, and that is HoopBall20, HOOPBALL20. You'll get free shipping and 20% off. And then you can go ahead and use that and put it towards the Lawnmower 3.0 that just came out, fully electric and full waterproof technology. Real nice, gentle ride. And then, like I said, get that 20% off on not only the Lawnmower 3.0, but some of their balms and ointments and beard products and all that stuff. I think they even have moisture-wicking underwear. So, Hoopball20, Manscaped. Use it, do it, let them know that we sent you. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's bring John in. Let's talk to Mr. John Ryan at John Ryan Sports 1 on Twitter. John, how's it been? It's been a couple days since we've knocked some content out. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, Devin. Hope the audio will get better here. We had some difficulties getting this thing started today. But hopefully it'll get better so everybody can hear me.
Yeah.
It's be a good thing. But
it's
yeah.
on par for 2020. You know, it's just another little thing. So
True.
Yeah. So like I said, we are gonna talk the MAC first. A lot of MAC talk. Return of the Midwestern Athletic Conference. It's a really exciting conference that I like. I highlighted them in the basketball season for my mid-major Friday shows. I would always break down the MAC, the Ivy League, and then the MAAC, so the MAC. So, you know, I'm excited for some of the talent that's in this conference. I'm excited for some of the matchups tonight. But we'll go ahead and start with the Eastern Michigan Eagles going on the road to take on the Golden Flashes of Kent State. This line opened at 6.5 in favor of Kent State. It's dropped down to 4. Over under 65.5. It's come up by a hook from the opening of 65. And just real quick, my general thought on this one, John, and then I'll throw it to you and get you to share some data with us and talk more in depth about this game. But I think it's important to point out that Eastern Michigan starting this year without much of their production from last season, including their 4,000-yard passer and Mike Glass, their leading receiver Arthur Jackson, and then their leading top 4 leading rushers from last year. This Hutchison kid, you know, he made a start against Western Michigan, did pretty well. I think it was like 300 passing yards last year on 30-some-odd attempts. You know, he's a young kid, and you're going to have to take over for Mike Glass, who, you know, was the face of this program. And like I said, 4,000 yards last year, that's going to be really tough to kind of replace. And then on the flip side, we got Dustin Crumb, the best quarterback in the MAC, in my opinion, for Kent State. Returning starter, senior, been there, done that. And according to PFF, he was the 3rd best quarterback in college football last year with 26 total touchdowns and 4 turnovers. So I'm looking for Kent State to probably control this game through their experience. I'll talk a little bit more about what Eastern Michigan lost, but I mean they lost so much of their production. They were, I think, bottom 5 or 10 in the NCAA as far as returning production from last year. So John, did you have any system in play for the specific game we're talking about right here? Or do you just have any eyesight analysis that you want to share with us?
I want to mention something about the conference first. And from the top to the bottom, this conference this year is by far the greatest discrepancy and difference between the top teams and the bottom teams. So in other words, the bottom teams are worse than previous seasons. The top teams are probably going to be a little bit better. And that creates an interesting situation because teams that are favored by double digits in the MAC going forward are going to be pretty attractive on the surface right away, especially the ones like a Buffalo that has an outstanding ground attack. Sometimes, when you lay double digits, you have to worry that the team's going to take the gas off or the foot off the pedal, so to speak. And that opens you up to the backdoor cover. But if you run the ball well, teams run the ball when they're taking their foot off the gas. So that minimizes the chances of getting a backdoor cover. And I think that's a pretty key component looking at the MAC this year. And then, as you know, Devin, and I think most listeners know now, a key pivot point in college football is 28 points scored, where a team scores more than that or less than that. And it's very evident in the MAC. So if you have a combination of a double-digit favorite and my machine learning model is projecting 28 or more, that's a very high probability of covering. Now, forgive me, but you were talking about the Kent State game, right?
Yes.
Yep. So I'm pulling that sheet up as we speak here. And you were right about everything that you mentioned in terms of rebuilding years and that type of stuff. In this particular game, it's pretty hard to come up with a I don't know why this is beeping. Did you hear that? I guess everything's okay.
Yeah. I thought anyway, it was like humor.
It's 2020. And Kent State here was opened a little bit higher. Money's coming in on Eastern Michigan. It's not a double-digit favorite, obviously. And I view these two teams as middle of the pack in the MAC. So the fact that it's a very high total, that favors Kent State because they're 10-1 against the spread when the total is greater than or equal to 63 in games played over the last 3 years. And let's see what else I have here. It's nice and juicy. In terms of the pivot points of 28 points, Eastern Michigan is 47-20 against the number of the last 10 seasons when they've scored 28 or more. Interesting enough, when they score 29-35, their record goes down to 18-13. So again, this is the MAC. You get over 35 points and both teams score more than 28. It's not a good thing usually for the team that's the favorite. So let's see, on the Kent State side of the ledger, we have 56-11 the last 10 years when scoring 28 or more, 9-1 the last 3 seasons. So my lead in this game would be on Kent State, but it's just a lean. And before we go any further, I learned my lesson in the Big Ten in week 1, attempting to think that I knew the teams better than they knew themselves type of thing. And I thought Michigan State was horrible. And, I do apologize for saying that they stunk, and another S word. So from now on, I'm just going to say that when I make up that play, I'm going to say that, I'm the one that sucks at handicapping and not the team. Because I really got bitten in the rear end when Michigan State then goes into Michigan and wins. So I look like a complete fool. So we're going to stop doing that.
Yeah, it's hard if there's no data. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and the same case here. Week 1, don't force any bets just because it's the only show in town tonight. If you do force a bet, maybe make it half a bet.
Half unit, yep.
You can always add to it in future weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a game, I believe it was last week, or I can't remember when, but you and I had a pretty strong opinion on it. I was a little more apprehensive just because it was the first game for both teams. There wasn't a ton of data. As the listeners know, I really derive a lot of my value and my conviction based off of not only the eye test and stuff, but I really enjoy my data and my numbers and my statistics. And one other note on this Kent State team, and then we can move forward if you're all right with that. They ended last season on a 5-game win streak. They also won their first bowl game in program history. And, not to say they didn't lose anybody, because they lost some guys in the receiving core. They had to convert some people to play an offensive positional skill set. And, but with that being said, there's a lot. I talk about this. There is, a lot of this Eastern Michigan team that's not there. I mean, they lost first, second, and multiple third-team MAC defenders on that side of the ball. And then, with that being said, like you said, this is the first game, and I can't stress it enough to maybe do a half-unit play. If you see something that you really like in multiple of these games, I've been messing around with 10-point super teasers lately, especially with college football, since I know it probably better than anything else as far as my database goes. And, Eastern Michigan's defense last year, they were ranked 121st out of 130 teams as far as tackles for loss, and outside the top 10 for rush defense. So, I'm looking for Kent State to kind of keep it rolling and, maybe get a sixth win on that winning streak and, kind of get some momentum going here. Next game that we can talk about is going to be, let me get my notes here. We got Western Michigan at Akron. And, we don't need to spend a ton of time on this one just because Akron, well, their mascot's the Zips, and that's the number of wins they got last year. They're pretty anemic in all aspects. Now, one big thing, though, is Western Michigan's going to be without Levante Bellamy. And, he was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year last year, 3,000-yard rusher. They're going to be without 3,000-yard passer John Wasink. And then, the bright side for them, though, is that their offensive line, is mostly intact with NFL prospect Jalen Moore. And then combine him with Mike Caliendo, and they got a combined 62 starts. So I really like Western Michigan in this spot, obviously against Akron. 17.5 is a lot for me. I'm not going to touch the side or total in this game. So this is going to be a complete pass unless I find something in game, maybe under 2 touchdowns for the Broncos of Western Michigan. But they're going on the road as 17.5-point favorites against Akron. Akron hasn't had a win in a long time, and lots of weird stuff has happened in 2020. So not sure if you had anything on this game or if you're good with maybe just,
Yeah, just one quick thing. You mentioned the losing streak. The Zips have also lost to the spread in 16 consecutive games. They went 0-12 last year. When you flip a coin 12 times and it comes up tails 12 times in a row, it doesn't mean that heads is due to come up. It's a little different in betting in this situation because I guess you could say the weight of the coin changes with each successive loss or win to the streak in the ATS margin. So in the case of Akron in the early going here, you're going to see inflated lines, and I think this is one of them. So I highly recommend you don't bet a team just because they're 0-12 against the spread or 0-16 on a stretch, because it could be 0-17, and there's a reason why they're 0-12 because the market didn't catch up to the actual talent quality of the team. There was I'm sure I had Akron at least once during one of those games during that stretch. So be careful with that, and I would definitely stay away from the double-digit favorite here, like Devin had recommended in his spiel.
Yeah. And just some line movement. I failed to mention. I looked down at my notes. I didn't recheck the book or anything, but they're now 20.5-point favorites. Western Michigan is, and the totals come down from 56 to 52.5. So I think what that says with that line movement in the market and what they're telling us is that they think Western Michigan, which, they were one of the top teams defensively as far as stuff rate, tackles for loss percentage, tackles for loss percentage on run plays. And then their offensive line, was really good at getting yardage. They were top 5 or top 20, in line yards and progressing, the battle in the trenches for their advantage. So I think what we're seeing is either the market, the bettors, the book, a conglomerate of all thinks that Western Michigan is going to have success like they did last year. And then just some other notes about Akron. They failed to score at least 7 points in 7 of their 12 games last year. They averaged 1.8 yards per rush. They had a MAC worst 4 yards per play. And we're the only FBS team to average less than 1 point per possession. So, like I said, it's week 1. It's weird stuff. 20.5 points is way too much for me. But that's my take on it. More or less just a sight of it, But
I'm drinking that lemonade, man.
Yeah. The next game that we'll talk about, though, unless you had anything else to say about the Akron Zips. All right. The next game I'm really excited for, and that's Ohio and Central Michigan. This game is a pick. Total right now is I should know because I already bet the under. Let me find that. Sorry, guys. 54 and a half. I locked it in at under 55, and it opened at 60. And I'm sorry, I need to just update and refresh my browsers because now it's Ohio -3. Opened at a pick, so very, very strong line movement just today. I'll throw this one to you first, John. I feel like I've been kind of commandeering the early on analysis of these games, but I've got a pretty decent amount of things to talk about just on the Ohio front. Speaking of, replacing Nathan Rourke, their quarterback, their 4-year starter, 3-year starter, I think it was. But I didn't know if you had any digs or takes on either side, for the Bobcats or the Chippewas on this one.
Well, the interesting thing on this game is that the total, I have it opening at 60, and now it's trading at 54 and a half.
Okay.
There's definitely going to be, in the MAC, everybody wants to bet the over. The casual bettor, you say MAC to them, they think over. And this is a bit unusual. And I don't think this is weather related. I think this is just the flows. 62% of the tickets are on the under, 67% of the money is on the under. So the fact that this isn't like 80% of the money means that there's been several, 5-10 grand bets put on the under to drive it down this far. And this is across, 20 different sports books too. So
right.
Maybe some of them didn't even get a bet. Let's see if I have a system here real quick on this game. All right, so we got Ohio U. This is the Ohio U game, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I got on my mind today. So
we haven't talked MAC football in close to a year. we're taking the cobwebs off. Having
this mic not work really, rattled me, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the same story again here with scoring 28 or more points. With this betting line at 54 and -3, that has Ohio scoring more than 28 points against Central Michigan. So when Central Michigan allows 28 or more, they're 38 and 90 against the number. When Ohio scores 28 or more, they're 85 and 31 against the spread. So there you have it. I mean, The implied line is telling you that Ohio is more than likely going to score more than 28 points, especially if you like the over.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be another lean on the Bobcats.
I'm looking up their team total right now because you kind of just made me think it's 29. So
there you go. Yep.
Yeah. No, I won't touch that one just because obviously I'm in play for the under. The biggest reasoning for my underplay is we have two of the better defensive teams in, the MAC, if not the two best defensive teams in the MAC, maybe behind like Buffalo or whatever. But Central Michigan's a really talented and stout run defense. They had some really great metrics from last year. But the big thing here is both teams are going to be breaking in new quarterbacks. Both teams are going to be implementing, offenses that have less continuity. And I talked about Nathan Rourke and, his career passing numbers for the Ohio Bobcats. He had 7,500 passing yards, 2,500 rush yards in his career. So a very dynamic player. And the two options that, they were looking at replacing him with was UNLV transfer, which is option A, Armani Rogers. He's more of a dual threat guy who, it would be interesting to see mesh with this Ohio rushing attack because they are returning their top rushers in DeMontre Tuggle and O'Shawn Allison. But side note, O'Shawn Allison at 11:30 was ruled questionable with an undisclosed injury. But then option B for the quarterback is, he's got more of a cannon, and that's actually Nathan Rourke's younger brother, Curtis Rourke. He's a redshirt freshman. Like I said, he has more of a cannon, so he could maybe, give more dynamic plays to this offense and produce a little more downfield with a nice arm accurate passing attack. And then that's huge because they're getting all 5 of their top pass catchers back. So, if they want to go the passing way, they can. If they want to go the rushing way, they can. And, I was kind of digging deep into the Ohio Bobcats Twitter and, mentions and just tweets and reading a couple different articles. But it's looking like the head coach is going to roll with both quarterbacks tonight, kind of similar to what Arkansas State does with Logan Hatcher and Bonner. Bonner is the other kid's last name. I can't remember his first name. But, we could see 2 different quarterbacks, two quarterback system tonight for Ohio as they try to figure this out. And then for me, that's another reason to kind of lean on the under because you're going to have, different guys trying to do different things. And here's the big thing for Central Michigan. David Moore, transfer from Memphis. He was supposed to start tonight, but it's not looking like his NCAA suspension is going to be, completed. He was suspended after I think it was 4 or 5 games last year for a substance issue. So he was right around the year mark for tonight's game. But I was checking it out. I looked at Twitter, read some articles. Looks like he's not going to be playing tonight. So the guy that they thought was going to be starting for them now isn't. So I think these offenses are going to have some issues, especially against these front sevens that are pretty stout as far as the MAC's concerned. I'm not talking nationally, but, every defense has their weak spot. And these are smaller schools for a reason with not as much talent for a reason. But, like I said, I'm looking for the defenses for both teams to come in and play well and kind of take advantage of these new quarterbacks that are still getting their sea legs under them.
That's true.
So
I was going to say on Ohio Utes, it might be a good time to do the futures bet on them to win the conference championship. They haven't won it since 1968, despite Soldier is a great coach. I think he is the winningest coach in the history of the MAC. Is that right,
Yes,
Devin?
yeah. He's 78 years old, 19th year at Ohio. So, he's a good old-fashioned coach.
14 straight winning record seasons, I think, too, or something. It's a lot. It's a double-digit number.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their time.
Yeah. They went 10-1 in that 1968 season, by the way, just in case the listeners were wondering. or you, honestly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's my general take on this game. Again, it's probably the game I'm going to be most excited for out of this whole slate. I am excited for, individual teams, that we're going to talk about here soon. But as far as a game and then seeing how these, specifically the defensive line of Central Michigan, how they kind of start 2020 after their really successful season last year. One other side note, both running backs, even though O'Shawn Allison's probably going to be out tonight, but, DeMontre Tuggle, and this is something to keep a note on as we move through the year for the MAC conference, both of those running backs averaged over 6 yards per carry last year. So that's they run the ball, and so does Central Michigan. And so that was another reasoning why I really liked the total to go under in this game. So I thought that was a pretty heavy dosage of a run attack that will probably be carried over into 2020. it's really dependent on the quarterback, though. If they are going to have the dual threat of Armani Rogers in there, or if they're going to have the younger brother of Nathan Rourke, Curtis, out there, just Brett Favre in it to these top 5 pass catchers they got back. So, any other side notes on this Ohio Central Michigan game before we move on to the next?
No, I think we covered it pretty good there.
Sure. All right, so the next game is going to be the I want to say, I'm just trying to go in like time rotation to kind of keep it cohesive for the listeners if they're going along, strolling along.
Yes.
Here we go. So Ball State at Miami of Ohio. And, this game, like, I didn't dig into it as heavy as I did a couple of the others. I think this is going to be the one that's going to be the most closely battled game, in my opinion. Ball State opened, I believe it was +2. Now it's a pick, if I recall correctly. The Ball State money line was almost +110 in some places. Now I think it's minus something now. So, I mean, there are a lot of people betting this game, and then a lot of action on both sides. And, just to get your thoughts on it first, because, we can talk all day about who's not on the team from last year or that. So it opened +3 for Ball State. It's a pick. Over-under went up a point from 55 up to 56, so they expect more of a close game, not necessarily a shootout, but maybe a closely competitive game. So what are your first thoughts at your first glance on this game?
Well, it's interesting that with Miami having all the starters coming back, 10 on offense, and I think it's 7 on defense, that's 17 out of 22, that the betting public hasn't favored them even more. So the fact that Ball State is now down to it'll go to pick 'em, and I think that's where it'll probably stop ahead of game time tonight. Makes me immediately go to Ball State, and Ball State does have a couple of trends that are worth noting. They're 11-2 as a road underdog with 3 points or less. They're 22-5 stretch here as a road underdog of 7 points or less. So you have one data set, and I drilled down and make it a little bit tighter, but both of them are clearly on Ball State. And then scroll down here through the sheet, and I actually do not have a qualified system for Ball State. But in terms of the team, on paper, I think they are the better team despite Miami of Ohio having all those starters coming back.
Yeah.
So my lean would be on Ball State tonight.
Yeah, I wish I would have listened and kind of sprinkled on that plus money line bet for them before it kind of, kerplunked all the way down to minus. I think I'm seeing minus 107 in a lot of places right now. But, the big thing for Ball State is that senior quarterback, Drew Plitt, he's returning, as well as a very veteran-based offense that led the MAC in scoring last year. And, the offensive line definitely lost a huge piece in Danny Pinter, who went to the NFL, who was actually one of my favorite guard prospects going into tackle prospects going into the draft last year. He started all 24 games in his past 2 years there with the Cardinals. But they got a kid named Curtis Blackwell, and he's going to lead a unit that has 4 seniors on that line. They excelled in run offense and run blocking last year, but, pass protection, they definitely got to clean some stuff up on that. But, I mean, like I said, it's going to be a veteran-led offense, and they led the conference in scoring last year. And we talk about this with 2020 a lot, and that's the word continuity. And it was such a weird, shortened off-season, diluted, if you will, and this continuity with these kids that know each other, know how each other plays, their offensive systems stay in play, the head coach stays there. There's not a lot of change. There's not a lot of guys leaving. That is huge. and I'll backtrack a little bit, but Joey Lynch actually left for the offensive coordinator position at Colorado State. So they do have a new offensive coordinator, but it was a guy that was the former running backs coach and offensive assistant. So, as seamless of a transfer of the torch, if you will, that you could have possibly. It's an in-house guy coming up, very familiar with the way the head coach operates, with the way these kids play. And, they got some playmakers in Ball State too. So just to kind of talk a little bit about Miami, you speak to on their returning starters and such, but I want to talk on a couple points of the defense real quick. And, they finished last year as the 111th team on offense and 77th on defense. So they, outperformed the offense, obviously. They did get shown to be pushed around. They ranked 86th in line yards last year. So they lost a couple of stud defensive guys, specifically defensive tackle Doug Costin, who is now a member of the Jaguars. But they excelled at getting to the quarterback, finishing top 20 in sack rate. And Cameron Butler had 14 and a half tackles for loss last year. And he's going to be the leader and the star of that defensive line. So I'm looking for him to maybe have a sack and a half tonight. I think that'd be a nice call for him.
Yeah.
But especially since pass protection is an issue for Ball State. But, now that we're breaking it down, this is actually going to be a matchup that's right up there with Ohio and Central Michigan that I'm going to be probably keenly watching very, very sharply, because I think, watching the first game and seeing how these teams play and come out, it's important for future handicapping. And the MAC is going to be a whirlwind of a schedule. I don't know if you've seen the schedule and what they're planning on doing and how they're going to get all these games in, but it's like 20 straight days of football for us, and the MAC is the biggest reason for that. So, I mean,
Wednesday, Thursday's going forward.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's their first. I think it's the first 4 games, I think is what I read. First 4 games are going to be on those days, and then they're going to transition some of them to Saturday. So, I mean, there's going to be weeks where we have 5 or 6 days of football, and, I'm not complaining. I don't think you are either, but it's just it speaks again to, 2020. This is going to be –
That's a great point.
Really weird.
One of my parameters is rest, and – in that scheduling situation, it's going to be teams who played, say, on a Thursday, and then they transition to Saturday. So they're going to have 9 going up against a team that is not getting 9. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out when I run those queries, because that's something I'll do. And also, these teams are pretty close together geographically, but travel is still, that's going to be a bigger issue than, say, teams in the Big Ten that are taking jets to the games. I'm not sure if Maryland uses a bus to go to Rutgers or Penn State or that triad there. But I think that's something that is definitely worth looking into, since we really don't have home field advantage to really calculate. There's not going to be any fans in the stands, according to the commissioner of the MAC.
Yeah.
So I think that's a real good point.
Just to kind of get on a small slice of a tangent here. I remember I was handicapping some games during the thick of college basketball last year, and Central Michigan had the 2 students come back from China before anything happened. It was like a month and a half before anything shut down. They had the 2 students come back, and Central Michigan shut their campuses down. They said, we don't know how to handle this. This is a weird health crisis. Didn't get talked about. And then, so I guess what I'm saying is Central Michigan was ahead of it before the Ivy League schools. But, they couldn't really get the NCAA to back them. There were games canceled last year before the big shutdown. Central Michigan had to cancel a couple basketball games because they didn't know what students had it, what athletes had it. They didn't know anything about it. And another thing that a lot of people forget from last year is Miami of Ohio was the MAC champion last year.
That's true.
So I think Ball State's going to, come out and try to make a huge statement against the defending champ. And I think a lot of people are backing them, obviously, because that money line movement. So
it's a great point too, Devin, because you got the champ at Pick'em at home,
right?
And they have 17 starters coming back, including the quarterback. I mean, I think the play is on Ball State.
Yeah, and again, guys and gals, listeners of all gender, age, and affiliation, it's like we said, conviction and value is huge, but this is an instance where I would definitely recommend half units or 3/4 of a unit. I mean, however your book allows you or whatever. So with that being said, let's pivot over to probably one of the betting favorites to win the conference this year, and that's the Buffalo Bulls. They're going to go on the road. They're taking on Northern Illinois. Let me find my line here real quick because I've been all over the place with them, and the numbers there's a lot of movement, and I think it's because, like you said, it's the only show on tonight. But from the opening line of 9.5, Buffalo is up to -14 as the road favorite. Over-under stayed put at 52. So, I'll let you kind of take this one first because I want to gather, my notes on it and, find a couple decent, good talking points. But like I said, Buffalo, a lot of people are probably going to pick them to win this conference with, low doubt and high confidence. But, I haven't dug into this team as deeply as I did, say Ohio or Ball State. But, they went 8-5 last year. They got a blowout bowl victory. And the first in school history as far as they got their first bowl victory. I was looking for the continuation of that sentence, but no, it wasn't there, which is kind of surprising if you think about Buffalo, which is why I was looking for the end of that sentence. So, but they're the only team in the MAC to rank inside the top 50 in success rate from last year on both sides of the ball. So heading back into 2020, they bring back much of that production, as almost as much, if not more, than any other team in the league. So, what do you got? Anything on this one right away?
Yeah, I like Buffalo's the preferred choice to win the conference as a bet. You're not getting too much value out of it, but it's certainly worthwhile putting one down on the futures. And the thing that sticks out with me is we mentioned it earlier in the show, teams that run the ball and are double-digit favorites at some point down the road. Buffalo would be at the top of my list for sure. So last year they outrushed opponents by 157 yards a game. That's a differential, which is absolutely monstrous in size. And they also did real well protecting the quarterback. They allowed only 8 sacks. On defense, they had, I think, it might have been 50. You probably have the numbers in front of you, but it was 48, 49, or 50 sacks for the season against 8 allowed. And that margin is insanely good.
Yeah.
And they bring back, as you mentioned, they bring back a ton of the production from last year, approximately 84%, the way I calculate it. You can take passing yards, rushing yards, minus sack yards, which is how I do it. But, everybody has a way of doing that. It's like power ratings.
Right.
But nevertheless, they're bringing back an absolute ton. And they are a double-digit favorite here, and this would definitely be one that is on the radar for tonight. And this, I can honestly admit, I've already bet this game. I think 14 is the highest I've seen it, and I thought it was going to top at 11.5. So this move must have happened between yesterday and today.
And while I'm going to pull up the injury report because maybe we had. I don't know if anyone was ruled out, but sorry, keep on going.
That's okay. I also wanted to see what Northern Illinois too is a team that has a good brand, right? But I think they won the championship back in 15, 16.
Yeah, they made a couple of those New Year's. They had a New Year's Bowl with was it Paxton Lynch was their quarterback?
Yeah, that's right. That is right. Yeah, good call. So in this particular matchup, Buffalo has lost 11 in a row to these Northern Illinois Huskies. So that's, I'm sure that's been put on a blackboard. Northern Illinois is 8-3 against the spread. But again, we have a brand here in the, franchise in the MAC that is not getting better year after year. In fact, they're getting a touch worse each season over the last 3 seasons. And Buffalo is definitely the team on the rise in the MAC.
Right.
From the metrics I just told you, I like this game a lot. As I said, I already bet it. And I wouldn't be scared to bet it at 14 either.
Yeah. I could be a fool for saying this, but I could definitely see Buffalo winning this game by 20. Just to piggyback off of what you were talking about with the run-heavy approach of this team, just comparative to their passing numbers last year. Last year per pass, yards per pass, they were outside the top 100. Now, comparatively so to their rushing yards, their yards per rush, they were top 25. And two of the huge pieces of the production that we've talked about is, they're getting their wide receiver, their dynamic, bona fide explosive deep threat of Antonio Nunn back. And then undoubtedly, their star, Jarrett Patterson, which if you got like a minute and a half, look up some of this kid's film. He's good. He's really good. He's a 2-star out of Maryland, but he's made every bit of an opportunity and ran with it here in Buffalo. And then, their backup running back, Kevin Marks, ran for over 1,000 yards last year. So, I mean, they're returning so much. And again, I know I've said it, I'm harping on it, and the continuity, it's huge. But here's another thing. You said I might have the numbers in front. I don't have the exact numbers, but I do have some percentages as far as their defense goes to kind of back up what you were talking about. Last year, it was the best. Buffalo's defense was the best in the MAC, easily, ranking 26th nationally in success rate. But then, with that being said, they ranked 17th in line yards as far as defense. So they won more yards than their opposing offense that they were going against, for the listeners. And 4th in sack rate. 4th. So, I mean, they're right there with Clemson and Ohio State. And, 4th in sack rate is huge. And they're returning their edge rush duo with first-team All-MAC defensive ends Taylor Riggins and Malcolm Kuntz. No, they're going to miss Ladarius Mack, but, they have so many other great pieces. And then not to mention that they got a transfer from Boston College in Chibuze Onwuka. So, they ranked 4th nationally in yards per rush last year at 2.9. This front seven is still loaded, and I'm looking for them to just completely dominate this line of scrimmage tonight. And, I think you're going to see stretches of this game where the Buffalo defense has to keep everything afloat, for, a few possessions at a time and then bail their offense out, even though they're returning a lot of guys on the offensive side. I mean, it's just it seems like that's the way it goes with teams that have pretty much elite defenses. So as far as
defensive ends coming back too, Taylor Wiggins and Malcolm Kuntz,
yep.
Had 18 sacks combined last year. So that you're going to see that on TV tonight too.
Yeah, look at how they stumped those kids. I could see them running, both of them on stunts to bring them over the top. Maybe create like a tidal wave effect, bring their gaps kind of out in a like triangular motion. They're really smart with their linebacker coverages too. I mean, this is a school where Khalil Mack came from, and it's the same coaching staff, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, so fact check me on that. I did not double check that. But if my recent college football memory serves me right, this is a program that's had continuity for more than a couple years now. I don't have a lot to say about Northern Illinois, so if you're a Huskies fan out there, I apologize. It's hard to not kind of be awestruck at what Buffalo's returning, especially on the offensive side of the ball with Patterson. Jarrett Patterson, like I said, just look that kid up. But, as far as the game goes, I put Buffalo into a 10-point super teaser. So I got them down to 4. It's not that I don't have confidence in the 14 or this team, but I'm trying to minimize risk and up my value and conviction, especially with it being the first game. So I think it's important to find spots that you like, and then if you get some hoopla thrown at you because you throw teasers together a lot or whatever, then whatever. But, some people call it a cop-out. But, the goal here is to win money and to make smart bets. So I think that Buffalo -4, coupled with a couple other picks, is a smarter bet than, just taking Buffalo straight up at -14. So, because, Northern NIU, they're not chumps either. They're not. They finished 7-5 last year. And I think from top to bottom, the MAC, other than, Akron, it was pretty competitive. Kent State came on as of late, which Kent State gave Buffalo their only loss to end the season. They could have went 7-0. They were up, I think it was 28 points in the fourth quarter, and Kent State completed an all-time college football fourth quarter comeback as a part of their 5-game winning streak to end the year last year. And they needed that game against Buffalo to get bowl eligible. So, that's pretty much where I stand on that. I mentioned I threw it into a teaser. But again, if you want to just turn this TV on and look for some really smooth operating defensive play and offensive players, then I think this is the game that you're going to want to tune to.
Yeah, for Northern Illinois, I understand that Ross Bowers is a kid that came from California.
Oh yeah.
When California was pretty bad, I vaguely remember him getting sacked more than 50 times. And then he was benched the following year, I believe. I don't think it was injury related. He didn't play hardly at all. And then he transferred to Northern Illinois. I did see a note he's starting tonight, and this will be the second season for the Huskies.
Oh, wow.
Kind of pedestrian type numbers from him, like 57% completions. The NCAA quarterback rating is calculated differently than the NFL, but it's still, again, pedestrian, like 122. In college, sometimes players can reach 200 in a given game.
Coastal Carolina's Grayson McCall, he's at like 192 for the season.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, so, this poor guy, I guess he's been sacked I would make the over-under 100 times in the last 2 seasons. So
rough.
He also knows those defensive ends are going to be pretty hungry to get at him tonight.
Yeah.
So that's not a good situation either for Northern Illinois, unfortunately. But, worth mentioning, I think.
Yeah. And, another thing that I think is worth mentioning, just to kind of piggyback and you're, in tandem with you, is, the pieces around said quarterback. They're returning a league-low 39% of their returning production from 2019. And a lot of that is on the offensive side of the ball. So not only do you have this kid going out there that's kind of traumatized and he's shell-shocked and he's got a little PTSD going on, you also don't give him, stuff around him to be real hopped up about. So it could be a 7-sack night for Buffalo.
Yeah, that's probably a good over-under number.
I would definitely take the over 5.
And that returning production has to be one of the lowest in the conference, if not the nation. Just to put it in perspective, that's really, really low.
It is the lowest in the MAC. It is. And then let's see if there's any other. I'm just kind of scrolling through my notes. Want to make sure there's not any. Okay, so their offensive line, they ranked 119th in line yards last year. The Huskies, Northern Illinois did. So moving on. Bowling Green and Toledo. Bowling Green Falcons going on the road, taking on Toledo. And, this is probably one of the games that I'm not looking too much at just because it's a weird line. Bowling Green getting 24 points. It's come up from 18. Over-under is 63. It opened at 60. Toledo, the home favorite. 20 24 points is now I'll while you speak, I'll look into, like the returning numbers, the production, kind of see what we have in regards to why Toledo is warranted this 24-point favorite number. But if memory serves me from last year, and I watch a lot of MAC, I like the MAC. As we all know, I love my weird small school stuff. So both teams clean on the injury front. Make sure there was no late, opt-outs or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I'll throw this one to you first. There's no way that you would consider laying the 24 with Toledo, which, I mean, there's 14-mile-per-hour winds tonight. So maybe the under's even in play. Both these offenses, they struggled at times last year, heftily.
Yeah, Bowling Green is earlier this week I was talking to somebody, and we were talking about Akron, and if they were ever going to cover the spread again, and we talked about that earlier in the show. Akron has a chance to have a win this year, and it's against Bowling Green. So putting that in perspective, I actually think that game will be pick'em based on what we know right now. I also keep in mind, I also thought Michigan State was a horrible team and had no chance against Michigan. So we're not always right here, but I think in this particular case, those are two the bottom feeders in the MAC conference. And at 24 points, it opened at I think you said 18. I have 18, and granted, there's more than 70% of the tickets on Toledo here. And anytime I see, approaching 75, that's a red flag. It then becomes a contrarian bet, especially when it looks like 82% of the money is on Toledo too. But when you're backing a dog that, is a real mutt, it makes it very difficult to put your hard-earned money behind something like that. Right. I'll give you a suggestion. If you really do like Bowling Green or you like Toledo, take half your bet size and bet it, and then use the live line and take advantage of it. Because rarely do we ever make bets that go from beginning to end and it's a rout, and we all feel like geniuses. There's ebbs and flows. It's really apparent in college basketball and the NBA. There's big swings in emotion and scoring. And, who's to say Bowling Green doesn't get out of the chute and get up 7-0? You can pick up Toledo then for probably minus 20 or minus 19. Yeah, probably minus 21, but it's still better than paying 24. Right. And, if you have one of those rare games that Toledo gets out to a 21-0 lead, then you have half a bet on it. So what?
Yeah.
You're going to win.
Yeah, so go ahead. Sorry. No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just looking for see if I have any system here on this game, and I don't, as amazing as that is. But I can tell you this. We were talking about double-digit favorites in the MAC as a preferred choice for the season. So I ran a query just now. Double-digit favorites that score 28 or more points. So obviously at minus 24 and where the total is, it's pretty likely Toledo's going to score 28 or more points here. And that might be the first half. So Toledo, when they have done this as a double-digit favorite, they're 45-1 straight up, 29-16 to the over, and 32-13 with one push for 71% winners against the spread. So for that reason alone, I can tell you my machine learning, I think it's 93% probability they score 28 or more. I have to go with that 71% chance to win. Yeah. And that obviously is not Bowling Green.
Yeah, it's and I was just kind of trying to find the production numbers and the returning. Just listen to some of this. It's so bad. So last year in 2019, the offense and defense finished respectively. So 128th out of 130 teams offensively, 124th out of 130 in the final SP ratings, and then the special teams 130th out of 130. Now, despite being one of the youngest or the youngest team in the MAC last season, Bowling Green still lost over 50% of its offensive and defensive production. And then on top of that, their roster this year still consists of over 60% freshmen. So that is huge. That is very, very huge in my opinion. Both quarterbacks that had experience from last year are gone. So they have a brand new kid in there trying to get acclimated. The only weapon he's going to have back is NFL prospect tight end Quentin Morris, 6'4" tight end converted from wide receiver. He's the only offensive player on this team that received any All-MAC honors last year. And then to kind of flip it over to the defensive side, they lost 4 of their top 6 tacklers. The only defender that received All-MAC honors in 2019 was outside linebacker Colby Coleman. He's returning, so, that's a bright spot. We can't be all negative here. But the secondary couldn't cover anybody last year, and they were one of only 3 teams to allow at least 7 yards per pass with UMass and UConn. And those are some football teams you do not want to be in company with at all, in my opinion. And then just to kind of commandeer a little bit longer here, John, and I apologize, but for
good stuff, man.
For Toledo, they actually return a really dynamic backfield between Bryant Koback, sophomore, and Shaquille Seymour. And then they also get back their All-MAC wide receiver in Bryce Mitchell, which I saw some really, really good games from him last year. And this is a team that ranked 19th nationally in yards per carry with 5.2 last year. And now they did lose their offense will have a new coordinator because Brian Wright left for the head coaching gig at Pittsburgh State, which is a small school in Kansas that no one really knows about. I moved to Wichita, and someone said Pittsburgh State to me, and I didn't know there was a Pittsburgh, Kansas. So, but
me either.
Yeah,
There'd be a question.
Yeah, and then Bryant Koback. I talked about him. He's a redshirt sophomore, 6'0", 205 pounds. He had 105 rushing attempts last year as a freshman, 688 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns. He was a transfer from Kentucky, and he's going to be in this system another year. So, it's a lot of points, like we said, but maybe look at the first half play. Maybe look at a Toledo team total. Just because I don't think that Bowling Green is going to offer – if they offer resistance at all, it's going to be very, very minimal. And right now at Toledo – oh, my goodness. The Toledo team total is 43. So no true opinion on that. That's a lot of points.
There might be some motivation here for Toledo, because I just noticed looking at the matchups going back all the way to 1988 that somehow Bowling Green is a 26.5-point underdog, defeated Toledo outright. And that is, looking at my grid here, that's the biggest upset win in program history.
My goodness.
Yep. Yeah. They were 24.5.
This is
it's unreal.
This is a hefty number. So I'm looking at the first half team total for Toledo. It's 21.5. I like that a little more. But, like we talked about, without having any data, seeing how these teams perform in the first half this year, we can look at all the data from last year. But, you got to kind of choose your paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, I agree.
Bowling Green, over 9.5 for the first half. If Toledo scores a crap ton, then Bowling Green's just going to get the ball back a lot. But again, new quarterback, no continuity, 60% or more freshmen to make up your roster. First half spread is -14 for Toledo. Toledo team total in the first quarter is 9.5. I could see them scoring a touchdown and a field goal early, maybe 2 back-to-back touchdown drives. But this is a weird one. I think this is probably the game on this MAC card for tonight that you probably look at live betting a bit more intrusively than you would any of the other games, just because this number is so large. So I mean,
in this matchup, Bowling Green has scored in the first half, if you want to know.
Sure. And then while you look that up, Kent State just went to -4.5. So we were talking about them at -4.
Yeah,
I was. So
they've scored 3 points. This is going back to 1988 in this matchup against Toledo. They've scored 3 once, 7 once, 7 points 5 times, 10 only once, 14 only once, 16 only once, and more than 17 on 5 different occasions. So that is kind of interesting with that 9.5. I mean,
yeah,
it seems like a trap. Like it should be 10.5 because then there'd be more under bets, I think, than at 9.5. But
man, what a weird line. But if I just looking at it, if I want to take a stab or a sprinkle on something, over 9.5 for first quarter team total of Toledo. I mean, with this Bowling Green State team being what they are, I think it's hard to not look at Toledo being able to move the ball, especially with the amount of production that they got back in their ground attack. So I wouldn't be shocked if a 50-yard run was broken off in the first quarter. But we won't spend all of our time talking about the MAC, even though it's exciting and it's coming back. Want to move on to some other college football games, or you got any other notes on this?
Go ahead. You lead the way here.
Perfect. All right. Sure. Well, before we do, let's talk about the other presenting sponsor for the show, and that's mybookie.ag. Go over there, use promo code HOOPBALL, HOOPBALL. You're going to get a 100% initial deposit match. You're going to get a $10 free bet. And, great customer service. You've got some really great lines makers over there. Like I said on the show before, I've set my grandma up with one. I've set my dad up with one, my little brother, my uncle. My dad, I don't think he's ever sports bet a day in his life, but he likes the fact that he can get on there and look at some horse races. And then my uncle, he loves blackjack, so he gets on there and plays blackjack. And then Gma, God bless her heart, she gets on there and plays slot machines. So, I mean, it's got a little something for everybody. Mybookie.ag, hoopball is your promo code, HOOPBALL. And bet, win, get paid. Mybookie.ag. All right. I'm going to have you throw a game out that you're looking forward to the most in college football later in the week, or maybe, Saturday. And then I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, the one that comes to mind initially here, looking at the calendar, is the Boise State BYU game. And, it becomes a question of how good BYU is, because they've had kind of a soft schedule so far. I do think they're a very good team, but now they're stepping up in competition against Boise, and they're playing on that beautiful blue field, which has a nickname. I guess it's a Smurf field.
Smurf turf.
Yeah, the Smurf turf. That's it. And Boise is a home dog of 3 points, which immediately puts them in a favorable situation. It's I don't know what the fan situation is in Boise. I have a note to look that up. But even if it's not, playing on that field is a home field advantage right there. And BYU has played there, so they know that field pretty well as a visitor. But still, I think Boise. These are the games that Boise really rises to, and they usually win more than they don't.
Right.
I'm going to pull up the technicals here in a second. Let's see what we got here. Should have the Jeopardy music being played here.
Oh yeah. Maybe I can edit that in.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. BYU is number 9 in the country, and there's been a lot of teams in the top 10 this year that get in the top 10 for the first time of the season, and then they lay an egg. North Carolina, I don't have to tell you who they are. You already know.
Yeah.
And there was COVID-related issues with the Boise State team, but that's all behind them now. It's almost like they got that out of the way. I believe it was about a month ago. They got hit pretty hard.
Right.
So the team is healthy, and it's not hanging over their heads now. I mean, that's fortunate for them. But in terms of the betting here, let's see here. BYU, 115 and 60 against the number of the last 10 years at 66% winners. I don't like that percentage, though. 66, I mean, all you need is 66.6, and I wouldn't bet it just because of that number.
Yeah.
A little superstitious. That gets me a little weirded out. But anyway, it also means that you win twice as many as you lose, the devil sign. But anyway, you're playing on this one supports BYU. And I'm just throwing it out there for those that want BYU because I'm on Boise, and I'll get to Boise in a second. So you're playing against all teams with a line of 3 points on either side of pick'em, so 3-point favorite, 3-point dog. After a game that they allowed 6 or more yards per play, and they're facing an opponent in Boise is coming off a game where they outgained the opponent by 125 or more total yards. So that's a pretty easy one to track. You can do it without a computer even. So now on Boise, this one is even simpler. It's 70% winners over 90 plays going back to 2000. Playing home underdogs after scoring 42 or more points in 2 straight games. So obviously in this case, the machine learning models have a very high probability Boise will score more than 28 points against BYU. Despite what the media might tell you about BYU's defense, I said earlier, I don't think BYU is a bad team. They're ranked 9th for a reason. But this is a tough matchup for them to contain this offense. So anyway, Boise is 15-3 against the number of the last 3 years, been scoring 28. They're 145, 62-1 last 10 years. That it's hard to argue with that. And the betting line is telling you that they're projected to score at least 28. There's one other thing I was going to point out here. Harsin, the coach. Coaching trends are an important part of any handicapping methodology. I'm fortunate enough to have been able to code these things right into the database. So this head coach is very good as an underdog. He's 12-3 in his career as a head coach when installed as a home underdog, and I like that very much. He's also 9-1 facing excellent offensive teams. So, and by offensive teams, that means averaging 6.25 or more yards per play. And again, this is over his coaching career. So it's kind of like a Saban metric that there's so many on him where, he's playing a team that has, after week 8 and is undefeated. It's stuff like that really has meat and potatoes behind it. It's not just, Harsin's 12-3 on Wednesdays. Or playing on a blue field, for example. That means nothing. But as a home underdog, I think having that kind of coach is superior, and that adds even more fuel to my love for Boise State. This is going to be one of my 4% best bets on Saturday that go to my premium clients. They don't mind me doing that as long as I don't give out the whole entire card. But this is a very good opportunity to bet Boise State, and I would jump on them now. I wouldn't wait.
Sure. And, the line movement, it opened at a pick. One thing I will point out, and I pointed out because I got severely lucky last week, I placed a bet on Boise State to cover against Air Force and to cover in the first half, which they did both. I didn't realize that Hank Brockmeyer was he was rolled out, I think it was like 30 minutes before kickoff. So there's some question mark about him in this game that gives me a little pause on the Boise State side. But, we've talked about it in the past. Like, we've been on opposite sides of the spectrum on games before. I always get a little more eerie of it because, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. And, you've got some really great data. For me, I literally, here, I'll hold it up for you. Listeners can't see it, but I mean, this is my data. Like, this is, so I got my spiral notebook and hand.
That is old school, man.
Yeah, it's just for me. I
That's
don't
cool.
know. I feel a little more connected to my picks if I do that. Just a couple of talking points for me in this game, and just to be clear, yeah, I am on the BYU side because I've watched so many of their games, and a thing I've talked about is the fact that everyone thinks that with that dynamic quarterback they have in Zach Wilson that they just sling the ball everywhere, but they actually run the ball a lot. They run the ball 54.29% of the time. And, like I said, Boise State just played against Air Force. So I think their rush defense numbers are going to be a little inflated. 263 yards per game. They've only played 2 games. But, if they were able to get gashed by one good running team, I think they could probably get gashed by another. The competition side of things for BYU does give me a little concern, but what doesn't give me too much concern is the fact that they've handled those teams the way that they should have, and that gives me a little more confidence in the Cougars. And they're, again, we can chalk it up to competition or what, but I mean the defense, they've been controlling. Again, doing what they should, and then this is going to be the biggest test of this whole season. Potent offense, their defense gets them the ball a lot, not through turnovers. They actually don't rank that high as far as turnovers per game or margin, but through solid third down defense. They're top 10 in red zone opponent scoring percentage. So there's a whole lot of different things to look at in this game. All I know is I'm excited for it as a football fan and as a bettor for Friday night. I mean, it's a great game. We got 2 ranked teams, and we didn't even talk about the total, but 59.5 right now. So again, the biggest thing for me on this is seeing what Mr. Bachmeier's going to be doing, if he's going to be in or out. I mean, that's a huge, huge piece for me.
Yeah, I was just running some, with the rank. You mentioned Boise's what, 21?
21, yep.
All right, so I just did teams that are ranked 10 or lower as 3-point favorites against an opponent that's not ranked higher than them in the standings. That's 31-41 with 4 pushes, so that's
oh wow.
Betting against them would be like 57%. I mean, that 57%. I mean, a lot of people, they're always looking for that 65, or you see the advertisements for 80% winners over 100 years, and it's you buy it, and I'm sorry to say you end up regretting it because it's something that your dog could have thought of.
Right.
But 57% is pretty good. Now let's do away favorite. And this could be, it's either going to tell us something or it won't. We get a little bit better. The team BYU, in this case, as an away favorite, playing a team that's ranked higher than them, in other words, worse than them, is 16-23 with 2 pushes against the spread. That comes out to 59% betting against them. I'm not sure what that tells us, but it's kind of fun to do this on the fly for the listeners to actually see like how easy it is to, pull this information out. I'm only limited by my creativity, really.
Sure.
There's so many different parameters, and I have the models that do all these calculations, and they produce some really great results. But when you're just doing basic queries, it's the world's your oyster.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to do a little IPA board bet on it later in the week, see where Mr. Bachmeier is, where the line settles, and then we can have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
One game that I want to throw out there and talk about, and you may or may not have an opinion on it, most people probably won't because, again, we know how I am with my weird games. Florida International going on the road, taking on UTEP. UTEP's a -1.5 point home favorite. This is the same Florida International team that just lost to Jacksonville State, FCS team, only scored 10 points. And I'm sorry, let me backtrack because in my notes I say I'll start by saying something nice about Florida International. They ranked 7th in rushing yards per play with 5.8. And the Panthers also ranked 15th with 219 rushing yards per game. Now, I'm going to say something truthful but very mean about the Panthers and the Florida International team. They're pretty terrible. They like I said, they lost straight up to Jacksonville State, only mustered 10 total points. And for UTEP, the Miners, they have to stop this ground attack in order to, and I believe they're going to be able to, in order to, win this game and ultimately cover the spread. But UTEP is a top 30 defense in opponent rushing yards per game, opponent rushing play percentage, opponent rushes per game, and opponent rushing yards per game. However, they are very, very, very susceptible to the passing attack of their opponents. So I'm curious to see if Florida International will try to get the air game going. They haven't all year, but they only pass the ball on 40.48% of the plays that they run for only 97 yards per game. So if the Miners can come out positive in the turnover margin, stuff the run, and make less mistakes in regards to penalties than Florida International, I believe they win this game very easily by at least one touchdown. Another note about UTEP, they also rank top 50 in opponent red zone scores per game. They're pretty stout down in the red zone for being a Conference USA team. And UTEP, they're not a football powerhouse by any means and have never been. But I think this is the best team in program history. They have a balanced offense. They got to clean up the turnovers. They have turnover issues. But again, I'm not really looking at Florida International to create too much pressure and putting them in some bad positions. So that's my take on this one. I had no reason to believe that Florida International is going to do anything on the road here. It's down in El Paso. I used to live there, so the mountains and the elevation, and it's real. It's real. I was in the Army in El Paso, and then they used to have us run up and down mountains. And my first time trying to do it, it sucked. It really sucked. So UTEP -1.5, just for the simple fact that Florida International lost to a FCS team and only scored 10 points.
Yeah, that's good work there, Devin. It really is. I'm running a query right as we speak here based on some of the stuff you said there. It'll just take me just another second. What I'm doing is the line is +3 on either side of Pick'em is my parameter definition. So line greater than -3 and 3 is greater than line. Yeah, hang in there, folks. It'll only be another second here. All right, so losing 2 out of 3, and then in a game like this, and let's see, Florida International's on the road.
Correct.
So let's see what that gives us. It was a lot of games. So let me get rid of let's do the last 10 seasons. All right, so teams that lose 2 out of 3 or 3, and a line of 3 points on either side of Pick'em and on the road since 2010, 106, 79, and 6, 57.3%. So we're on to something.
Yeah.
But now we'll put wins equals 0 because they haven't won. So when I query 2 out of 3, that could be at any point during the season. So this is going to make a winless team that has lost 3 in a row. All right. I didn't get anything back on that worthwhile, but let's change it to ATS margin now, since they lost 2 out of 3. And we'll make it greater than equal to 2 of those 3 games. All right, so we got it. And wins equals 0. They're 7-4 against the number since 2010 for 64%. The over 7-3 for 70%. So yeah, we just sat here. You gave me some ideas, And that's why people listen to these things. We try to give out information that is useful and profitable. And here we just went through a little exercise where, I kind of stepped everybody through how I think.
Sure.
You just keep drilling down and drilling down. As long as you're not going down a rabbit hole of meaningless parameters, you're onto something.
Yeah.
So now we have a supporting cast of data now on Florida International to win this game.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I'll just throw, my other game that I'm looking out at, real quickly, just, so we can get this episode up in time for the MACtion to kick off. But I'm looking at, newly ranked number 25 Liberty to go on the road against Vatek. They're getting 14.5 points. It opened at 15.5. I'm just going to toot my own horn, John, because I talked about Liberty from week 1. I talked about Coastal Carolina from week 1. And look, they're both ranked. They are both ranked. Liberty has 4 players that have rushed for over 300 yards. Both teams elect to run the ball at least 60% of the time. And I believe, based off of what I've seen by the eye and the numbers, Liberty has a better rush defense than Virginia Tech. Over 250 rushing yards per game for both teams on this in this matchup. And the Flames, Liberty, they only allow 131 rushing yards per game versus Virginia Tech's 195. Additionally, Liberty only allows 4.3 yards per rush compared to the Hokies' 5.2. Liberty, they really don't pass the ball often, but it actually might behoove them to do so in this matchup since Virginia Tech gives up an opponent completion percentage of 61.31% and 7.9 yards per pass. So, that being said, the biggest problem with that is that Virginia Tech gets to the quarterback. They have a 9.55 sack percentage, which is top 13, I think it was. And Liberty gives up a quarterback sack percentage of 8.11. So, they allow some pressure on their quarterback. But I think it could be one on the side of defense for Liberty. A lot of people forget that they have a former 4-star SEC recruit quarterbacking them. They have Hugh Freeze coaching them. They have continuity. They have a dynamic running back in B.J. Smith. Liberty's ranked for a reason. They just shellacked Syracuse last week, so they're looking to get 2 big wins against ACC teams. They're 14.5-point dogs, but I honestly still feel like they could win this game. I'm not telling people to go place bets on the money line, but if you want some fun in a parlay or you want to sprinkle on the money line, I'm not going to be mad at you because, the numbers, the way they stand, and I might be biased, or probably am, but this Liberty team, I like them. I just like them.
Yeah, I do too. I definitely think you're onto something here too. They're getting no respect and they're ranked.
Right. 14.5 is a lot.
It is. I'm doing a query, ranked opponent as a double-digit dog against a non-ranked opponent. I don't believe Virginia Tech is ranked, right?
No, they are not. They did just beat North Carolina last week, though.
Yep, and let's see. I'm going to make the line 11.5 because that'll filter down the games. Huh. That is quite interesting. It actually didn't, double-digit dogs that are ranked didn't pull back any games at all. So that means that really hasn't happened.
Oh, wow.
So let me back out of that. So teams that are ranked in the top 25 and double-digit dog are, it's nothing. It's 210, 217, and 6 pushes. 49 and 385 straight up. So that does put, it doesn't really tell us anything. So let's do in road. I came up empty on this one too. The away double-digit dog doesn't give us much, and rank. And, I know it. Here. Strike what I said about that never happening because I put the rank in as none for Liberty and also had him ranked. So, the database told me I'm an idiot. So, let's see. An opponent rank is none. Or null, as they say. So here we're 58-65, so we're getting a little bit better, but a little bit better support on Virginia Tech. So this is something I'll have to work on and not take up any more time on the show, but at least another illustration of how Devin and I dig through a game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that being said, we mentioned some really great stuff as far as, Mac and then some other lines that we're looking forward to. We have a really exciting slate of college football. And because of that, I haven't spent a ton of time digging into NFL yet this week. I'm a little behind the 8-ball in the curve on this one. How about you throw one line out for us for the NFL side that, caught your eye and that you're kind of looking forward to? And then we'll kind of just roll this show on out so that way the folks that want to listen to our full-on Mac breakdown can get that in and maybe listen to it as they're looking at maybe placing some live bets and stuff.
Well, the one that really sticks out is Pittsburgh-Dallas. That opened at 13.5. It's now 14. The world is on the Steelers. They're undefeated. And Dallas as a double-digit home dog is well earned. Some of our listeners might have seen my tweet, which I requested a line item in yesterday's election to vote for a new America's team and to make America's team great again. So every once in a while, I feel, like I'm a little bit of creative there, that I came up with something a little bit funny.
Yes.
But it's really nothing funny in Dallas right now. They did play a little bit more spirited in their loss to Philly. I just don't know what's going on with that team, and it's just mind-blowing that preseason you can look at them on paper, and they should win the NFC East.
Easily.
And then it's even more mind-blowing, but it is 2020 and COVID-19 and all that stuff, to see the NFC East be as bad as it is. And 3-4 is not a good record for a division leader. Mm-hmm. And they're the only team in the division that's won 2 games in a row, that being the Eagles. But the Eagles, have their work cut out going forward too. They're on the bye this week. Then they have the Giants up in New York. And, arguably that should be a win, but maybe it's not because the Giants played them pretty tough. The Giants played Tampa Bay pretty tough.
Well, they also played the Eagles tough when they played. I had the Giants in that plus 200 money line, and they were right there. They still covered for me, but
they're not the Jets.
Not the Jets.
I said to my one buddy, you have the rankings, right? And then you get down to team number 31, which a lot of people have Jacksonville or the Giants. And then there's about 5 miles of sludge until you get to the Jets. Yeah. It's just a mass canyon of difference of ability and performance between the two. But anyway, we're talking about the Steelers here. And the Steelers are undefeated, and, it's really an incredible season that they're having. My power ratings on that team have been adjusted every single week, and they are a team that gets no respect. Right. They truly, go on ESPN and Fox, and there'll be article after article. Is Pittsburgh really this good? Well, they are. And it's the same old team that Tomlin designs every single year. An offense with Ben Roethlisberger not making mistakes and being the veteran that he is, and a defense that is just going to, plow you into the ground. And, what better example than winning against the Ravens?
Right.
Seriously. That was just and they still don't get the notoriety and the kudos that they deserve.
And coming from behind in that game, too. So
yeah, exactly.
Gutsy.
On the road.
Gutsy. Yeah,
So,
I like the Steelers here. It's a great spot for them this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, everybody's going to bet. Well, not everybody's going to bet Dallas. I guess some people have some they'll be a little hesitant to bet a team that is playing as erratic as they are. It's the psychiatric team of the NFL, I guess. So I know everybody out there is dying to know how many times Dallas has been a double-digit underdog at home and how they do in that situation. Well, it's happened 3 times.
I was going to say, it's probably not a lot.
No, it's not. I have the games here. I can tell you which ones they are. They're 0-3 in these situations, 1-2 against the spread. The last happened in 1990 on November 11th, which is pretty close to the date that we'll be at for this game. The Cowboys were 10-point underdogs to the 49ers and lost 24-6. 1989, they were 10-point underdogs to the Rams, lost 35-31, but covered. And then the last one in my database, and this goes back to 1980, was the Cowboys again against the 49ers as a 14-point underdog and lost 31-14. I'm not sure what that tells us, but at least we know it happened 3 times.
I think it tells us that this 2020 Cowboys team is historically bad and is probably pretty comparable to these teams. If it's only happened 3 times in the long franchise history of the Cowboys, I mean, I'm sorry, but as much as I want the James Madison product of Ben DiNucci to, pan out, because I like my small schools and all and my unexpected quarterbacks, but this team is just – They keep losing pieces. They keep making terrible personnel decisions.
Yeah, the coaching here wasn't exactly a good fit.
No. It's pretty it's bad right now.
There's hope though, Devin. There's hope. I just ran another query. I'm having fun. Steelers is double-digit road favorites. 2-10 against the number.
Oh wow.
8-4 straight up though. So it's not that much good news for the
Has
Dallas.
Roethlisberger been the quarterback in any of those? I'm sure a good chunk of them.
Great question, because he started in the 2000 season, I think, same year as 2002, I guess, right?
I thought it was 04.
Okay, 04. That is
could
right.
be wrong.
So all but 2 of these games were with him at the quarterback position. Now, I don't know if he was injured in any of these games and didn't play. But they last were a double-digit favorite on the road in 2017 on Christmas Day. They played the Texans as 10-point favorites and won 34-6. So that is very interesting. So those 2 games that aren't in there are ATS losses. So if we just do Ben Roethlisberger, it's 2-8, and the straight-up record is 7-3. So it's 8. Yeah, 7-3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still 70% winner straight up. I mean, maybe I would never play the money line on a double digit unless I was, I get drunk on 2 IPAs, so maybe I could do that, and I'll do like a 17 teaser with the money line at a ridiculous price.
Right.
Anyway, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like I guess there were people that bet the Chiefs money line against the Jets last week, so I didn't understand those moves. But, those are some really, really great data points and pretty eye-opening, too, as far as Ben Roethlisberger being a road, double-digit favorite. I didn't realize that dynamic of his career and production. With that being said, John, I think – that's probably all the time we have for today, unless you have any more really good.
You did a good show here. We really covered it all.
Perfect.
I think it was good.
Awesome. Well, guys and gals, we're going to go ahead and wrap a bow on this one so I can get to editing and get to loading, so that way we can enjoy some content and some data from Mr. John. Again, he's at John Ryan Sports in the number 1, John Ryan Sports 1 on Twitter. I'm at DALE007, and we are at Hoopball Gaming. And then go over to hoop-ball.com, check out the best bets articles that I've been putting up for college football. Some good amount of winners in there, just saying, free for a limited time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So get it while it's free and hot. And then, don't forget the promo code HoopBall20 for Manscaped, HoopBall for mybookie.ag to get your initial deposit bonus. And then, again, to wrap it all together, basketball is going to be here very, very soon. So hoop-ball.com for all your fantasy needs for this shortened, crazy off season. We got it all over there for you guys. We have team content as well, specifically for teams in the NBA. So without going much more long-winded here in my outro, I just want to say I appreciate you all again. I appreciate everything that we've done as far as growth this last year. It's been a weird one for everybody. And out there, folks, I am sending you all of my good vibes and all of my good energies. John, any last parting words of wisdom for the listeners?
No, I think you covered it all, Devin. Feel free to direct message me, too. I know some people don't like that, but I like getting to know you guys. And if you want me to run a query, you have an idea, share it with me.
Oh, yeah. I've learned a lot from listeners. I've got a good rotation of folks, handful that we talk probably close to every day, especially game days. We bounce stuff back and forth off of each other. It's a fun thing. We do not discredit reaching out and discourage it. So we love it, actually. So please do that. DM us, message us, add us, whatever the correct term is that these young kids are using nowadays. But all right, John, we're going to get rolling out of here, and then we're going to enjoy some Mac football. It's the return of the Mac. If I had trademark rights to that 90s R&B song, that would be the intro music for today, but it is not. So once again, listeners, thank you so much, and we will talk on the next one. And again, I bid you adieu. Thank you all.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.